Hello and welcome to this edition of Group Talk, where you'll be learning about taking care of business by making your existing applications social. You'll be hearing from Scott Hooks, the GM of Services here at GBS.
Thank you to everyone who's also joined the webinar today. What we're going to focus on doing is talking specifically to customers of Lotus Notes and how you can start taking advantage of some of the social technologies and techniques that are all the buzz in the business world. So first, just a little bit about GBS for those of you who may not know. We're a global IBM business partner, and we have our business is focused on providing solutions and professional services based primarily on the Lotus Notes platform, but we also have solutions that extend out into the larger collaboration and messaging sphere. We can provide your licensing as well, whether that's an annual renewal or the need for additional licenses, or possibly even to reinstate if you'd like your maintenance lapse. If you see something of interest today that may require the current version of Notes or Domino, and you want to reinstate your licensing, we can work with you to help create an excellent deal for you there. A large portion of what we're doing nowadays is around assessing environments and collecting analytics in preparation for starting to move Notes applications to a more modern platform, most notably usually web or mobile devices. So we're providing initial services to help plan those engagements, and then we actually also provide the services to get you from where you are today to that more modernized platform. Building a lot of custom mobile and social solutions, and pretty much everything that we're doing in the development arena is based on XPages, which are an incredibly powerful web development technology based on Domino that we'll go into a little bit of detail on today. We can also provide these solutions in the cloud or provide cloud-based solutions to you in a private scenario. And we have solutions in the space of CRM, email management, archiving, and instant messaging archiving and compliance. Of course, you can always go to our website at www.gbs.com to learn more about what we do. So, why are we talking about social? There has been a definitive movement, not just in the consumer space, but also in the business space, away from the kind of traditional business-oriented talks that are all kind of industry-specific or kind of one-way communications, or targeted communications that are relatively limited in their interactivity, to much more interactive communication methods as we've transitioned over the past few years to things like even instant messaging communications, which just a few years ago weren't pervasive. Mobile devices are everywhere, meaning that everyone always has access to information, and people have an expectation of interacting. And so it's really been a shift from more of an institutional approach to more of a community-based approach, where organizations are interacting with their customers and their constituents in a two-way communication rather than just kind of the direct marketing approach. So one example of this is if you think about how you find answers to questions you have, or how you educate yourself today, chances are you're probably going to Google or some other search engine, you're typing in a word or a phrase, and you're exploring the results, and chances are that the most results that you're getting are coming from actual social networks, rather than coming from maybe sources of well-known and defined expertise. They're coming from anywhere on the internet, and the social networks are where most of these answers are proliferating. If you contrast that with how you communicate in a business context and how you learn in a business context, you're typically still doing traditional sorts of interaction, whether it's one-on-one with a colleague, or whether you're looking at old files that there may be stored somewhere within your environment, or maybe you're getting to the point where you're interactive enough to have instant messaging, as we see here. Certainly everyone nowadays has email and phone, and those still dominate in the business communications space. But again, if we compare that to how communications are occurring in the real world, in the consumer space, and certainly in the emerging workforce, these things are used a lot less often nowadays. It's mobile devices, and it's web-based communications that are very socially oriented. So I love this chart. It shows the growth in just a very short period of time, 5 or 6 years here, of social networking sites as a form of communication. And it kind of breaks down by age group here, and it does so as you'd expect. Obviously, the youngest group is using it over 80% of the time, whereas the highest age group is using it about 33% of the time. Thinking about that, though, that's still a third of the communications that are internet users that are active on social networking sites. So I see this trend continuing. I believe that more and more of the communications on the internet will become social, and it's natural that that's going to fall over into the business space, because that's just how people will expect to communicate going forward. So there's no shortage of social networks. There are new ones popping up every single day. And the point to realize here is that if you as a business are not providing the sorts of social network interaction that users are wanting in their communications, then they will find a network that provides some specialized use. So the question is, do you want those communications that may contain confidential information to leak out into these public networking spaces, or do you want to provide these core social services within your business? And of course, the challenge is, how do you take this social technology and really make it a social business technology? How do you drive value through the use of the technology? And it really involves bringing all of these aspects together and centering them on social business, which we'll show some examples of shortly. So, of course, GBS can help you with this process, and that's what we want to talk about today. We have a full spectrum of offerings in the social business space, everything from sitting down with you and planning what your use of social technology might look like, analyzing your requirements, and then implementing a solution, whether it's as an initial pilot solution or implementing a full-blown solution, or maybe something for just a particular business need or division. We can customize these solutions for you, modernize the communications and the applications within your environment, and take it all to the cloud if you'd like, integrate it with other solutions. And then we go a step further past implementation by helping you with facilitating end-user adoption of the technology, and then managing it and supporting it on an ongoing basis. And we put together these custom plans to help you build your own enterprise social network and support it in a way that makes sense for the way that you do business. One of the great things that's come about specifically for Notes customers is that if you are current on your maintenance, or if you reinstate your software maintenance, you now have access to connections, profiles, and files. So this is new with the 8.5.3 release of Notes and Domino. And basically profiles, I'll show you an example in a minute, are kind of what you would think of as kind of Facebook. Everyone has a profile that indicates their expertise and their interests and allows them to tell everyone about themselves and tag themselves with particular keywords. And then files are really what people tend to collaborate around most. So this allows you to easily share files, and more importantly, to discover files that have been shared, maybe not explicitly with you, but have been made available, so that you can use this modern search paradigm to find information that's generated socially, rather than, say, a formal approach where you have an enterprise content management system. Of course, there are ways to make ECM systems social as well. So I'm going to switch gears. I have some screenshots just kind of as backup here, but I always like live demos if I can get away with it. So let me see if I can switch to our connections instance here. So just to show you what you get with Notes and Domino at no additional charge is basically a frame Lotus Connections interface. This is Lotus Connections as we use it within GBS. We've actually added our own theme to it, showing you a bit about how you can customize it to match your corporate branding and image. And what we see here is a river of news, which is essentially just like a status feed, as people can put in short little bursts, like you might do on Twitter, for example, of what they're doing, and I can see that from who's in my network. But I can also extend that to other people in the company, or people that I'm following versus people that I'm connected to, or I can isolate it to just my status updates. And this is a quick way for me to see what's going on in my environment. And then I can take any one of these people and click on them. And then here we'll see my news feed, but also I have my contact information, my background, recent posts. So this is my profile. Right? People can also see how I fit into the organization, who's in my network, other links that I have to other information. So, for example, to my blog or my Twitter feed or my YouTube channel or my shared files. And then over on the left-hand side, you see a bunch of tags. These are tags that I might have added for myself, or actually someone else might have tagged me with a particular kind of expertise. And this makes me discoverable. So if someone, for example, were to go into the upper right-hand corner of Connections and search for consulting, then I and anyone else who's been tagged with the word consulting would come up in the search results. I think I spelled it wrong. Back to the book. Here we go. All right. So I can also remove these tags. If someone tags me in a way that I'm not, maybe they thought I was an expert on consulting, but I'm not, then I can X that out and take it off. So this just gives me a way of managing my information, but also making it discoverable to other people within the organization and allowing them to extend on it. The other piece that you get free with Lotus Notes now is files. So for example, if I open the files interface, this is a list of my files, the files that I have posted out here and shared. And again, these are also discoverable. So for example, if someone was searching for the word assessment, they would be able to find this report along with anyone else's files that they've shared that also match that same word. And I can also look at public files, or I can look at other people's files. This is a really easy way of sharing a file rather than, say, emailing it, which when you email it, it's only usable by the people who receive it or the people who they forward it to. It's very limited communications. If I'm sharing it in the context of the social network, then I can make it available to anyone who might need to access it there. And it's much more rich communication than, say, using something like a file server. All right, so just to recap, if you're wondering whether you are eligible for this entitlement, anyone who has any kind of Notes or Domino license is eligible for this, whether that's express or traditional license. And again, you're able to deploy Lotus Connections really for the use of files and profiles with no additional licensing charge. You basically go out to your Passport Advantage website and you download the package and you go through the installation and you're up and running. This is something that we can also help you with. This is often different for people who are used to being Domino administrators. Connections does require a bit more infrastructure. It runs on WebSphere 2 and WebSphere and DB2 as its application and database server, respectively. So we're seeing a lot of proof of concepts that we're doing with customers on virtual machines. So you don't necessarily need 3 or 4 servers to run it. You can run it on one powerful server with VMware or something like that to virtualize the machines and get exposure to it, and then you can build forward from that architecture and deploy it to the rest of your organization. But having said all that, Connections is about a lot more than just files and profiles, so as most social networks are. So these are just a few of the other features. You have a home page that shows you, that allows you to create your own personal portal of information pulled from the various modules within Connections. You have communities and wikis where people can collaborate and share files with each other in the context of a certain topic or business unit or division. You have activities, which are kind of like to-dos on steroids. Of course, you have forums for open discussion that can be parts of communities or extensions of wikis. Microblogging, which is the Twitter-style interface that I showed you earlier, as well as shared bookmarks and, of course, blogs, which are central to building up the content within any kind of social network. So this is typically over $100 per user, but for existing Lotus Notes users through the end of the year, there's a promotion right now being subsidized by IBM to get this for just $49 per user, and you get the full-blown Connections. So just to give you an idea of what that entails.